you very much. This is the time for public comments. At this time, members of the public may address the Board of Directors regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Board, but no action may be taken on off-agenda items. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment slips?
No, I don't. And back to the roll, I wanted to recognize Adnan Mahia from Caltrans as president.
We're glad you're here. Welcome. Okay, no public comments. In that case, we will move to the consent calendar. Are there any items the board wishes to pull? If not, I'll entertain I'll entertain a motion by Director Puckett and a second by Director Crane. Any comments, questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Carries unanimously. Thank you, Directors. Moving on to item number 12. This is our Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency fiscal year 2016 annual budget. And we have Chief Financial Officer Potter. Amy, welcome.
Good morning. This item is to request an approval of the 2016 budget. And we presented this budget in detail at the budget workshop in April, and again last week at the Operations and Finance Committee meeting. So my presentation will be brief, and then I will open it up for questions. The budget includes $169.1 million in revenues and $161 million in expenditures. The largest portion of our expenditures is the debt service at $112.8 million. Revenues include a recommendation to increase the toll rates by an inflationary amount of 2%, which represents a 1 cent to 6 cent increase, and a 3.4% revenue increase and a 1.4% transaction increase. This recommendation was based on an analysis that was performed by our traffic and revenue consultant, where they looked at the toll rates from the prior year and analyzed the elasticity and made the recommendation based on the assumptions that are included in our traffic and revenue study that were used to finance the bonds. Additional factors that went into this recommendation are the items that were discussed with the board previously, that small increases annually rather than large infrequent increases in order to meet the assumptions included not only in the traffic and revenue study but also in the debt schedule. Also taking into consideration economic factors and continuing to increase the agency's cash reserves, supporting our credit rating upgrade strategy, and also demonstrating commitment to the refinance in 2013. Next slide. So these are the actual rates that we are proposing that are highlighted in the 2% column. We presented these previously. Move on. And so the recommendation is to approve resolution F 2015-03 entitled A Resolution of the Board of Directors of the Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency approving the budget for fiscal year 2016 in the amount of $161,014,635. And it includes the items that are shown on this slide to approve the proposed staffing and compensation plan, adopt the toll rates as presented, authorize the CEO to reallocate within the following categories as shown there with those amounts, and also to resolve to carry forward the project description in the RTIP and the RTP, and also for the FTIP and the RTIP. And also to direct staff to submit the budget to the trustee. So that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Good. Thank you, Amy. Directors, any questions?
I'll make a motion to adopt the budget.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Shea and a second by Director Crane. Any comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Amy Potter, thank you very much.
Can I make one little comment? My screen keeps wiggling excessively. So I don't know if it's because I'm not supposed to really be looking at these numbers, throw me off, but if someone could fix that, we would appreciate it.
And I'll also note that there are several in the audience, including some up here on the dais, who are fanning themselves. Perhaps, Amy, the budget can include air conditioning assistance over the next year.
Or fans.
Or fans.
Yeah.
Assuming that we cannot change Director Shea's screen right now, maybe you can move.
No,
that.
it's not that bad. I'm just saying in the future if we could
Absolutely.
stop the wiggling going on.
All right. Director Ward, if you see Director Shea begin to get a little
Okay, we
vertigo.
see. Just let her fall over and ignore her.
Very good. All right, moving on to item number 13. Item number 13 is the interim customer service center system maintenance contract. Directors, I do my best when I can to attend the meeting that precedes this, which would be our compatriots. And we have about half of our board who sit on both of our agencies. There was a robust conversation that occurred on the first time through on the board. And predominantly, I think it was, it came off Director Shea's comment, which is most appropriate, that she had requested additional information, a more robust briefing. And so, Samuel, as you address that, we assured would appreciate that, but I also have learned that some things you can tell us and some things that are not quite appropriate in public setting. So delineate that for us if you would, please.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
As the board may be aware, our current system is in place, and it's what we refer to as our legacy system. This is our-
Daniel, if I can interrupt, maybe, there we go. That's except for somebody that's 7 foot and lower, so we get an idea. Thank you.
So our current contract with our legacy system maintainer expires on June 30th this year, so in just a couple of weeks. We've talked with the board in the past about how important that system is. This is what allows us to process transactions that are captured on the road, assign those appropriately to customer accounts and sometimes violations, and to make sure we collect all the revenue we need to be part of the budget that you just approved. The services that that contractor provides are maintaining our systems. And these are the systems, as I mentioned, that process our transactions, handle our reporting, and the things that we absolutely have to have working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's an important service. In our plans that we've discussed with the board, we're going to go and buy a new system. But implementing that new system is going to take a little time. So it's going to take 18 to 24 months, is staff's current estimate. So in the interim period between our current contract expiring and our ability to get a new system in place, we need what we refer to as an interim system maintainer. This is a procurement, next slide, that we've been working on, and we've shared a lot of details with the Joint Toll Operations Committee. We issued an RFP, a request for proposals, in March of this year, with proposals due in April. We received only one proposal, but this was not a surprise to us. As we've mentioned, it's to maintain a legacy system. So someone, having a firm willing to come in and take over responsibility and all the accountability that goes with maintaining someone else's system is viewed as a high-risk proposition to most firms in this industry. So we knew that there was one firm that had the skills and the experience to come in and do this work, and that's who we received the proposal from. And the reason that firm has those skills is because they're hiring the folks who currently do the work for us today. So the people who are actually maintaining our current system are now going with the new contractor that we are recommending a contract award to you today. So this, and we can go to the next slide. So that company is called Brick-TPS. And not only are they comprised, or the team that they proposed, comprised of folks who are currently maintaining our system, they are also the folks who originally developed the system for TCA many years ago. So in terms of our evaluation of their proposal, although it was only one, we still conducted the same amount of due diligence we would do if we received multiple proposals. So we looked at the qualifications of the folks to do the work. And as I mentioned, with their experience, we feel confident that these folks can do the work. Then, of course, we negotiated price to make sure we were getting a fair and reasonable price. The board earlier this morning was asking for more detail behind that, and I understand you want more detail in terms of being able to make a decision. So I can share some of that now. I think the distinction that we have to lay out, as the chair mentioned, is the actual rate per employee has been identified as confidential. And it's justifiable for the proposer because if they make what they pay to their employees public, this is a limited field, they become a target for other folks to try and steal their employees. So that's why their rates have been marked confidential. But I can tell you for the range of positions that are included in our scope of services, which could range from report writers, quality assurance personnel who review software changes, programmers, website developers, database administrators, and a project manager, the range, the actual pay range of those positions range from about $53 an hour to about $75 an hour. So we negotiated those actual pay rates to make sure they were consistent with market rates in Orange County. So we researched various sites that advertised positions, and we looked at what other folks were paying for positions of those nature, and made sure that our contractors' rates that they were going to propose to pay their people were in line with basically what TCA would have to pay an employee if we were hiring them directly for the same type of work. We also negotiated all the details of their benefits, taxes, and their overhead. So in benefits and taxes, we reviewed every line item that they've included, from healthcare costs, Social Security contributions, 401k. We reviewed every line item that rolled into their cost, and that's on the taxes and benefits. On their overhead rate, we reviewed every single line item that they proposed to include in their overhead, and that ranged from office supplies to rent to insurance. So staff feels they went through significant detail in making sure that TCA was getting a fair price for the services we requested. Now, I understand that that number overall, or even the individual pieces between the boards, are large, but it is a fair price for the services that have been requested. So I'm hoping that gives the board a little confidence in what staff has done to make sure we're doing the best job we can at your direction. So before you today, we're asking the board to approve the contract with Brick TPS, and the Foothill portion of the contract is about $1.9 million over an 18-month period. The previous board also expressed a desire to keep staff motivated to get the new system in as quickly as possible and to avoid costs. Staff is absolutely motivated to get this new system in quickly, especially for me in my specific area, because it's going to allow us to be more cost efficient and have increased functionality over our current legacy system. So we're working on that. We're also addressing some of the concerns that the board has shared in the past about having finger pointing when we separate contracts. So a key part of our strategy in getting the new system contract in place is leveraging the procurement for our operations contract. That's not before you today, but it's part of our strategy. We've talked with the board or shared information with the board about it in the past. So our strategy in regards to those two items is as we work through the procurement to get our long-term operations contractor, and this will be the contractor that provides all the personnel that's in our customer service center, handle customer calls, process account payments, process violations. As we're working through that that procurement, we want our shortlisted firms to weigh in on our system procurement, because that would avoid our operations contractor later down the line saying that, oh, we can't meet TCA's performance expectations because the system TCA thought is inadequate. So we're going to make sure that they weigh in on our system spec and our procurement so that they can't point that finger later down the line. Now with that strategy, it does make the system procurement timeline integrated with the operations procurement. So as we look at both of those procurements, staff is absolutely working to make sure we can move those through as expeditiously as possible, but that constraint and that relationship does require some consideration in terms of schedule guidelines for the actual system procurement. In that, I know there was some concern that, well, if the procurement for the long-term system takes longer, is there an increased cost for TCA? And I would say there's not an increased cost. The board I should inform the board that we have an old system and we're going to have a new system. And under either scenario, we're going to have to pay folks to maintain the system. Right? So if it takes longer to put the full new system in, that just means the contractor we pay changes at a later date. So it's not that taking longer to get the new system in increases our cost. It's just the cost is now paid to a different contractor. So I hope that provides you with some additional information as well. I'm open to any questions the board may have.
All right, very good. Yes, Director Green.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not sure this is the appropriate place, so I'll just throw it out. We have the Anaheim Visitors and Convention Center, and I'm getting a lot of pushback about rental cars, and the drivers have no idea how to pay, and they're paying these enormous penalties. So we need to do something and address that issue, because they're not going to use toll roads again, they're not going to come to Anaheim or Orange County, so that's a very serious issue we have.
We're definitely taking that very seriously, and in the board item for the budget you just approved, one of the key initiatives was to do anything we can to improve that situation. Ms. Taggart can probably provide more information on the different strategies we're using to help work with the tourism industry and rental car companies to make sure we make that a more friendly experience for
Well, is there a way, because I know they have 5 days to pay, but if you don't know that you have a cost to go to toll roads, since there's all AET, well, is there a way that you can send a bill or do an email or something, capture their emails when they rent the car, so you can say you have a $3.50 toll payment to?
We're definitely looking at different strategies. The key one we are putting in place is to have the actual rental car companies make them account holders with TCA. That way, when one of their customers uses the road, TCA would just bill the rental car company for the toll only, and that would eliminate any violation from happening. So that's a key strategy we've been working on, and we're having ongoing discussions with rental car agencies and in some cases their third-party providers.
All right, thank you.
And that's a good question, probably not directly on point for the system maintenance contract, which is what we're being asked to approve right now. It very much related, absolutely. Just so we're clear on what we're being asked to approve, we have the staff report. Samuel mentioned that the San Joaquin board had an addendum to that. Lisa, that was yours. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about your 3-month request that you had?
Oh, okay. Well, I think to give some background for some of the board members who weren't here for the San Joaquin meeting, the $3 million contract, we kind of broke it down. We didn't have the backup data with regard to the details on the proposal. So you've got 8.5 full-time equivalent positions that will be funded through this contract. So that we calculated that comes out to about $19,000 a month per employee. And that also includes some of the fixed costs involved as well. And I think that what we're looking at with regard to the old system versus the new system is we want to make the transition as soon as possible. This old legacy system that we've got is just not working for us. And there may be cost savings in going to the new system with greater technical efficiencies, and maybe we need less personnel. So there may be a cost differential. It's not an apples and apples approach going from the legacy system to perhaps a new system under the RFP. But the specific motion that I made had to do with the staff recommendation to move forward, but also that you would create at least the first stage or the first round of the RFP for the new system within the first 3 months, so that we wouldn't get through the 17th month of this 18-month contract and find out, well, we've got to get that RFP out there, and so then we're going to have to extend this existing contract with this old system that's not working for us even longer, so that we keep things moving forward in a timely fashion. And that was my motion.
And so more specifically, the motion is to approve the staff recommendation with the staff coming back to this board if they have not initiated the first round of the RFP, the request for proposals, inside of 3 months. And I'll second that motion. So for continued discussion, that's the motion that we have on the table. Any other questions, directors?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, I just want to state that at our San Joaquin board, I was very frustrated because in our report, there was really no background information whatsoever that was allowed me any sense that I could even support this. But I do appreciate that Samuel has come back, updated us in much more detail, that we don't have the report here, but it's certainly updated us in much more detail about how this contract works, justification for what we're doing. So based on that, with the amendment from Director Bartlett, I will support it.
Okay, good.
Just goes to show if we had it prepared, you would have got my vote then too.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Samuel, thank you. And Director Shea makes a good point. We do a lot of work on this agency in our ad hocs and our standing committees but that does not replace the board. They are the ones doing the heavy lifting, they are doing the vetting, but the idea of having the full data available to the entire board is important. We appreciate staff's working towards that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your nice comments.
Well deserved.
Could you clarify the maker and the second of that motion, please?
Yes, the maker was Director Bartlett, and I seconded. Okay, moving on to item number 14, Design Program, Management Services and Staff Assistance. Julia Shu, welcome.
Hi, good morning. I'm Juliet Sue, Corridor Manager in Design. And the item before you is a request to amend the contract value of the Corridor Design Management Group, CDMG. CDMG continues to provide cost-effective staff augmentation for TCA for technical design and management services. They provide continuity of in-house staff, preserving significant institutional knowledge for the agencies, and they provide additional services to us on an as-needed basis. This amendment includes an additional $36,950 for the Foothill Eastern TCA to augment the previously approved remaining budget, which is $652,000 for the ongoing CIP projects. Our fiscal year 2016 capital improvements plan approved at the May board meeting, and the fiscal year 16 budget, which was presented to you today and approved today, includes the projects and the budgets for the CDMG services. So at this time, we're requesting authorization to execute task orders with CDMG for a not to exceed amount of $36,950 for Foothill Eastern to support the capital improvement plan implementation for fiscal year 16. And that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very good, thank you so much. Director Bartlett.
Yeah, I'll make my comments brief as I did on the sound on keyboard. So this contract has been under in place with the agency for about 28 years. And I know they're a great joint venture team with the two firms, provide great augmentation to our staff services. It's just that it's never gone out with an open and transparent process for the agency. I think it might be good at some point in the near future just to send it out to an RFP, just so we have that process in place to be open and transparent. And we may very well end up with the same two firms in the joint venture. But the fact that it hasn't been bid out in 28 years is an extended period of time, so my comments. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I'm going to move staff's recommendation.
Okay, we
I
have,
have a comment.
yes,
Sorry.
we have a motion from Director Puckett. Can we get a second first and we'll go for discussion?
Second.
Okay, we have a second from Director Murphy, please.
Okay. This is asking for an amendment of $36,950 to a budget that we already have from 2015 for Foothill Eastern. That includes two tasks. Who's looking at the two task orders, FE 37 and FE 39. FE 37 is the 241 Tesoro extension and long-range planning. I'm not sure what FE 39 is. Can you just tell me that really
Sure.
quick?
Yeah, FE 39 is various capital improvement projects that we have, including the 24191 Express Lanes connector, our Tomato Springs decommissioning. There's also the wildlife fence protection project and the AET signage improvements. So there are various projects that are included in that.
Okay. My comment would be, I don't know if I'm comfortable allocating this money. I understand it's been remaining in the contract, but I think it should be said that this money would not be spent pending the outcome of the Water Quality Control Board appeal. I mean, that's my concern there, as we're budgeting it. I understand this company's been with us for 29 years, but I question, I don't know if we're giving the go-ahead to go ahead and proceed with this. And I'm assuming that with the Water Board's decision, we are not. And I just want clarification of that.
That's correct. We're
So with the capital improvement plan, which was approved last month, that articulates the projects that we'll be working on. The work is really, and that's one of the reasons why there's such a large carryover from last year to this year, is we have, if the work's not needed because of the progress of the project, then it doesn't occur. So we're actually doing the work as we need. The work that they have is not all specifically tied to if the water board approval occurs or not. There are other things in the long-range planning that would occur with or without that action. So again, though, the work that occurs, and the reason for the large carryover is when things aren't moving, as you've articulated, then we do slow down the work or don't do it. And that's the reason there was a large carryover, and we're really only asking for a minimal amount this year. And it's also the reason why we brought it to the full board as opposed to putting it on consent, because it really represents a larger piece of the budget than just the amount we're asking for authorization for. And part of their effort is staff augmentation. Our engineering department really includes 2 TCA employees, and the rest of them are provided through this contract. So those people are still in place, and we have to have, the ongoing ability to compensate them for that. Things like document control, geotechnical work, other things like that, right-of-way services.
So my other question is, do we keep doing this and planning this when we have not dealt with the fact that San Juan Capistrano City has pulled their approval of the Tesoro extension pending the long-range plan?
And this would be the effort to move towards that, to get to that point and in place what actually they voted on would occur through some of the efforts that this contract covers.
Okay. All right, thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you, Director Ward. Any other questions, comments? Yes, Director Ferguson.
As I understand it, though, some of this is directly planning and design on the Tesoro extension.
That item includes Tesoro extension project as well as 241 long-range planning. And if my understanding is correct, what the city asked us is that the Tesoro extension project that the city would not support that project until if and when the full project, and so this deals with the full project as well. So it sounds consistent.
As well. You see,
Director Ferguson, I couldn't understand your question.
yes, my question is that what I'm hearing is that a portion of this is specifically aimed at the Tesoro extension. I'm just trying to clarify because I have, I've been asked by my counsel to respond in a certain way, so I need to have information that's correct. So if there's a portion of this that is simply for the Tesoro extension, I need to know what that portion is.
Well, for example, the appeal to the State Water Board, there will be effort needed for that, and that is related to the Tesoro extension, and that effort would be one of the elements included in this.
In this particular, and what is the estimate of that cost?
I don't have a breakdown. Do you, Juliet?
I do. If you turn to page 3 of the staff report, you'll see a table.
Yes.
And
That's what I'm looking at.
yeah, and FE 37 is the 241 Tesoro extension and long-range planning. And we actually have a remaining contract value of $2.1 million. And so we're not asking for any additional funding at this with the staff report for that particular line item. And that dollar value is already currently in their contract and has been approved. And as Michael was indicating, that work will only progress on an as-needed basis. So we're not using that whole amount of money. We're just using their staff as needed when the need arises. And we have different tasks that they will be performing that are in support of all the different tasks that we're pursuing. So that's what
I'm
that.
not hearing a clear expression of exactly what will be done in aid of the Tesoro extension.
So for the Tesoro extension project, we're still pursuing our the water board, and they'll do.
And do you have a cost on that, an approximate cost.
We have-
Usually with an attorney or an advocate, you have a
We-
cost.
We have an estimate of,
Mhm.
because of course we don't know
Yes.
when we're going to
Yeah.
be getting that approval. So we have an estimate of if we do move forward with that work, how much work we would then be preparing related to supporting the environmental process and the project approval with Caltrans and the various.
And the estimate is,
The estimate is in our fiscal year 16 budget amount. That's 1.7 million for next year.
in
And
other
that's
words,
Richardson extension as well as the long range plan.
okay, I'm still not getting that. I guess she's not gonna answer the question.
Well, let me see if I can rephrase what I think you're asking. You're looking for detail as to the Tesoro extension, and what I've heard Ms. Sue tell us is that for this particular agenda item on that chart, there are $0 that are proposed for this item as far as an addition. There's existing funds already in the budget, but there are no additional dollars that are being requested. Did I?
That's
Okay.
correct.
So as far as this item that's before us, Director Ferguson, does that answer?
Nothing in here that's specifically for TISA.
Nothing,
This
right.
time.
Right, if you look at the chart,
This
good at it, FE 37,
For this year.
yeah, request additional authorization, $0 additional is being requested.
And then for the capital improvement plan, is any portion of that TISA?
It's not.
Thank you.
Good questions, thank you for the help. Directors, any other questions? All right, we have a motion by Director Puckett and a second by Director Murphy, if I recall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any
Abstain.
abstention?
Abstain, Levina.
Okay, we have a blind act for Director Crane. Thank you, directors. All right, moving to item number 15, the marketing contract. Lisa Tellis, welcome.
Good morning. Okay, so the item here before you is the funding for the third year of a 3-year contract with ELA Advertising. It's a contract that was awarded in June 2013 after a procurement, and this is the third year of the 3-year contract. The way this contract is set up is that we annually come forward to request the funding for the contract. And the Joint Marketing Ad Hoc Committee met on both May 7th and May 20th to review plans for FY16 and included discussion of the proposed funding. And the funding amount for this contract jointly is $1.5 million. Marketing and advertising services are a large component of the communication program for the toll roads. You know, we're talking to people who have to make a choice every day on their route and if they're going to pay a toll or sit in traffic. And so we work on communicating the value of the choice. And the contract includes a series of items including strategy, creative design, art direction, the advertising production, planning and negotiating and procurement of media, trafficking for the media placements, monitoring the media, making adjustments, and also account management, including accounting and administration. Also part of this contract in the scope is support of our Hispanic outreach, including the ability to translate into Spanish press releases or any materials, fact sheets we have that we need to translate into Spanish. One thing that happens whenever I bring this contract forward annually is the question comes up about results and measurement. And so this slide just has a list of the things we do measure and the results for the FY15 media program and advertising, 198 million impressions. We do primarily radio and digital. What digital advertising does is allows us to both be targeted as well as track, because we can track how many people clicked the ad, and even if you clicked the ad and actually went to our website, if you followed through and ended up signing up for an account through that process. We also, so we have over 7,000 of the accounts that we can tie directly to an online ad is what generated that new account. We also did 2 direct mail pieces last year that we're planning to do more next year to our new homeowner mailing list that we received, as well as now that we have people who pay online with one-time toll. After you make the payment, you have to opt in for us to be able to send any information to you, and we do have a checkbox, and people are checking off if they would like more information. And we did a direct mail piece to that group in January, and 20% response and signing up for an account after we did that piece. So we also track what's happening on the website, as well as overall how many account signups and revenue and account signups and transactions. So next slide. So next year, well, the last 2 years, this contract came on board and was really focused on the change into all electronic tolling. It was ramping up to the change, and then the second year was post-change and how we needed to adjust and also communicate more exactly how you pay the toll. So what we're proposing in FY16 is really a step back and look again at the value proposition of the choice of driving the toll roads. And we will be talking about education. That will continue and always be part of our communication, but also the broader message about the fact that the toll roads do provide a better driving experience because of where they take you, providing predictability, the time and convenience that you save, as well as driving nonstop, less wear and tear on your vehicle, and the choice that you have a choice. And enjoy the drive is the tagline we'll be implementing next fiscal year. So with that, the direction will be utilizing both radio and digital advertising to help shift the brand perception, and also work to build awareness and educate about accounts with online payment and online digital and mobile phone advertising. The question came up about tourism. That is one of the key targets we're looking at, is that visitor and tourism market. And so we've been doing some testing in this last quarter about places we can place digital ads that connect. When you are traveling into Orange County, what ads do you go to figure out what's going on? Where do you go to figure out what to rent a car or do a hotel? And we also have outreach we're doing with the tourism industry, and we're involved in the Orange County Visitors Association. So we'll keep reaching out to them. There will be an online video that's part of our, will be a streaming ad. It will not be a television ad, but it'll be part of our digital advertising. Other elements included in the contract will be quarterly inserts into our Fast Track and Express Account mailers. People receive on a quarterly basis that will work on branding messages as well as added value and using your account. We are going to continue these quarterly mail to one-time toll drivers, as well as new homeowners. We're reaching out to new developments that are associated. We've been contacted. If anyone we know where all the new developments are, but it's specifically Lake Forest has contacted us about some of the new development happening near the toll roads in their community. And what we're going to do is offer, looking at developing a toll incentive, so not just sending them a card to say please sign up, but offer some sort of an incentive for the sign up, and we'll be bringing that through those plans through the marketing ad hoc committee and back to this board before anything's implemented that has an incentive associated with it. Also, as it mentions here, the contract does provide these materials that we use for our visitor outreach and tourism rental car outreach. We do go out to the rental car locations at John Wayne Airport and talk to the people at that desk, but we know people come in and they rent the car at LAX and then drive all over Southern California. So it's a lot of groundwork to tackle that visitor audience. Next slide. So the budget breakdown of the 1.5 million is the joint amount. As I mentioned, we have gone through the ad hoc committee, and what we've negotiated is not less than $1 million of that 1.5 will go towards the actual media buy. So actually the radio spots and the electronic advertising and the direct mail. There's a 2% media markup that is roughly $20,000. It's a $1 million budget, and that goes towards the monitoring and the trafficking and the analysis that's done on the actual media buys. And then the agency retainer is scheduled as planned for be 15% of the total budget. The remaining parts of the budget go towards the creative, the production, so the actual printing, the Hispanic outreach component. Social media is involved. Mainly social media comes in the agent retainer, but if there's a bigger program regarding social media, and then potentially, as we finalize the plan, if there is additional dollars that would go into more media buys. We do plan to bring back the complete plan to the ad hoc committee in July, and we'll launch in September the new program. And then finally, measurement. These are the ways we'll continue to measure. One of the things that's not on the list is we're going to be looking closely at our Express accounts. Now that we're a year into having Express account holders, there's over 140,000 Express account holders with a license plate, and we will be looking into that customer, how often they use the roads, what's the demographic of the Express account customer, return on investment as we move forward, and help us adjust where we focus our marketing. So with that, their
With
staff
that-
recommendation is, for this agency, it's $1,005,000 is the split for the Foothill Eastern Agency.
Okay, very good, thank you. Directors, any questions?
Did you acknowledge me?
No, absolutely, but I also failed to acknowledge that shortly after we took roll, we had both Director Murphy and Director Spitzer join us. Gentlemen, thank you. We're glad you're here.
Time probably, did the clerk know when I watched?
Well, we'll have it on the camera, but you're here right after we called roll, so thank
It's
you.
like 11:15.
Item 12, I have it.
Possibly.
Okay, Director Spitzer, please.
So, Mr. Kramer, we had a focus group last night on the 405, and so I watched, Mr. Kramer and I watched 2 focus groups. And it was amazing to me how most people are, it's basically radio and social media, okay? And we can't afford TV, so newspapers ain't happening. So, what I guess my question back to you, Ms. Davis, is based upon, I'm not saying you could incorporate that, and I'm not saying, I'm guessing it's probably a similar demographic that we deal with on the toll road. I don't know if Mr. Kramer found that interesting. I did, but I'm just kind of curious how this money breaks down, given some of that stuff that you learned. You know, in other words, are we going to spend it all on print? Because how does it break down? You know?
If you go back, yeah, I'll tell you, I should find it. It's like, I think it is the next one back here. We are utilizing primarily radio and online digital advertising. And that also, we're looking at mobile phone advertising as well, and radio streaming advertising like for Spotify. So it is all electronic.
When we do our buys for radio, do we let them do the placement, or are we doing a lot of the radio that we know that commuters listen to traffic?
Right. Usually during commute time, you know, to round traffic during commute time.
Okay.
And we're working on the details. And what's great about digital too, and Facebook, you know, mentioned social media. We do have ads that are on Facebook as well.
On the banners?
Well, and in the ones also that are actually in the streams as well.
Yes, sir.
Pardon?
Mr. Chairman, could I just ask Lisa a quick question? I would assume we're going to have ELA, if this is approved, would come in and give us an overview, a presentation of what our new plan is, Enjoy the Ride, and some of the things our marketing team had an opportunity to see once it's all sort of pulled together.
Right, what I've anticipated that in July we'll bring back to the marketing ad hoc all the details, and then we can do a presentation before the launch on the plan, or provide it out electronically to all the board members definitely before it launches.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, I have comments from Director Bartlett, Murphy, and then Ward. Oh, okay, then Director Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, this is just an adjunct and probably not lost on any of the marketing professionals in the room, but the seeming solution for what was raised earlier by Director Kring, in my experience, from a travel perspective, would be to think about updating an app for smartphones and try and tie it either with the Disney app that they use very effectively to tell you when to go to the Matterhorn to ride and the rest of those things, or tie it to the apps that some of the rental car agencies are using. And then there's also a direct connect where you could actually do a text saying, hey, you're on the toll road, don't forget to pay your fee. And all of us that travel, or the majority of us that travel at any volume, would respond favorably, I believe, into that, and you might hit 75 or 80%. Some of the folks that aren't using smartphones yet for personal choice or leisure, that's a different group. But if you could catch 80% of the folks in the rental car experience with that, because they capture a cell phone number, they capture those things, and they send you things when you check out, if you haven't dropped your car back off, you know, all those things through their premium programs and the rest. I'm sure you all maybe thought about that already, but to me, startup cost wise on that would be a lot smaller, and if you could get the adoption or endorsement of at least one of the rental car agencies, the others might follow suit. And I mean, Disney might be another one that might be willing to do it, I don't know. They're pretty protective with their brand and the rest of it, but I mean, they're happy to tell everybody where to go and how to pay inside the parks and what time they're late if you're leaving the hotels and the rest, down to even using the wristband for that inside in Florida right now, but it'll be in the rest of the parks very quickly. But I think an app kind of version of it, and not so much from an advertising standpoint, but from a standpoint of utilization, could really leverage the satisfaction level as well as the concurrence in terms of payment, and take away some of our other issues on the backside of that, trying to explain, trying to email, trying to send bills, and all the things that were referenced earlier. So,
We could
And
just send a
that's really-
skunk, right? Just an app skunk to people that didn't pay their bill.
what's that?
We could create an app skunk.
No, I tend to think the best of people, so I'm going to go the positive end of that.
Good for you.
And say if you put it on the front, I think most people, if they know, will do it, and if you remind them, they'll do it immediately. So the perfect world, that app also would take a payment at the same time.
That's a good idea.
Actually, a good idea. We've done a lot of work on trying to getting the information about the toll road and how you pay onto the Visitors Association of all the cities. So if you're traveling, but you're right, the traveler who travels a lot is looking for a single source.
The other piece of that is that the app is also a self-standing app that you could go out and get.
Mhm.
Just the reminder of, hey, put this app on the phone. If you enable GPS on your phone at the same time, the app standalone could remind you that you're on the toll road, and hey, guess what? You're on the toll road. If this is your first time, welcome. It's $1.75, and don't hesitate to pay us now, and we'll send you some more great information on how to
Click and you're right at the
So it's a
form.
marketing tool and communication tool as well as.
And by the way, it's a $420 fine for reading this app while you're driving.
Yeah, and then you send the skunk, they put a picture of us.
Then we're to the Director Shea solution.
Director Ward,
Well, maybe it should be there's something that triggers when they leave the toll road, they see that, or when they get to their destination or something and turn their phone on.
Most people are, at this point, hopefully have adopted the fact that they don't read their messages while they're driving. I'm not suggesting they do it while they're on the road, but I'm just saying, even a multiple reminder, hey, welcome, and hey, you just got off, your toll is.
So it'd be a message waiting for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whenever you do legally look at those sorts of things.
I love the caveat, thank you.
Yeah.
Word stuff.
The only comment that I wanted to make, and I wanted to give kudos to you and the marketing ad hoc committee, is the tagline you came up with, "Enjoy the drive," I think is like the best one that you've had. As opposed to save time and all those other ones. This one's much better, because to me, this is actually why I take the toll road, it's more enjoyable for me than have to watch out for so many other drivers. And so I think that's I think it's gonna take a lot further than the other ones do.
Good take.
Okay, Directors Bartlett and Crane.
Yes, I think the marketing ad hoc is really excited about this new campaign with radio, and then something that's more technology-based. And ELA came up with that tagline, "Enjoy the drive." A lot of the campaigns, whether it be, like I said, a Rolex watch or driving the toll roads, it's based on emotion. And you're going to take a look at the traffic, and you want a nice drive and enjoy the drive. You see that on our little marquee as you enter the 73 North, and you're going to hop on the toll road. So I think we're really excited for this campaign to move forward next year. So I would, I'll make a motion to approve. I know we have a one comment.
Director Shea, was that you who said second?
Yes,
Okay.
that was me.
We have a motion by Bartlett, a second by Shea, and a comment by Director Crane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also, please said, because the B and C is so important to Orange County, particularly Anaheim, maybe there's an app that you can design that can go into the materials for the conventioneers when they come here. Because we have an awful lot of people who come through the convention center.
Yeah, and I know you go to conventions now, they tell you, here's the app for all your different parts of the program, and it could be something else if you're driving around.
Material they get before they attend the convention.
Right, okay.
Great comments. Any other comments? All right, we have a motion of staff recommendation that's been seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any disapprovals? Any abstentions? Very good. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it. Disapproval. It's a legal disapproval. All right, item number 16, Federal Legislative Advocacy Services. Barbie Daly, welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Get my notes out. Okay. The item before you today is amendment number 4 to the Aiken, Gump, Strauss, Hauer, and Feld contract for Federal Legislative Advocacy Services. The Aiken, Gump contract was brought to the Foothill Eastern Mobility Ad Hoc Committee in March and then again in May. Susan Lent of Aiken Gump attended the March ad hoc meeting to provide the committee with an update on the results of their work this past year and the goals they achieved. She also outlined the goals developed by staff and their firm for the upcoming fiscal year.
Susan also attended the March Joint Legislative Ad Hoc Committee, providing the same update as well as goals for the upcoming year. And the Aiken Gum contract was discussed with the Ad Hoc Committee just last week. As I outlined in my staff report, in 2011, TCA staff conducted a thorough procurement process for federal legislative advocacy firm. The contract awarded was for 1 year with 4 one-year options. This item is to request the board exercise the 4th option year. Federal advocacy for TCA involves building and nurturing key relationships through education. There are 9 committees of relevance to the TCA in the House and the Senate. Legislation moves through these committees before it is passed by both houses and signed into law by the President. Aiken Gump monitors and communicates with the staff and members of each of these committees on behalf of the TCA. Susan is also part of the strategic consultant team dedicated to the 241 long-range planning strategy. Her understanding of transportation, project development issues, and experience with the political process has allowed her to work collectively and successfully with this team, as well as our Nossaman attorneys and Sacramento advocates on issues of relevance that transcend both the state and federal government. I would like to highlight just a few of Aiken Gump's accomplishments this past fiscal year. Susan secured an opportunity for Mike Cramen to testify before the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, their subcommittee on Highways and Transit, regarding the need to streamline the project delivery process. Mike testified last September, and his participation was well received by committee members. Susan also drafted environmental streamlining recommendations and has been working very closely with both the House Transportation and Infrastructure and the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee staff on the possible implementation of our streamlining recommendations in the next transportation bill. She is also working to obtain the support of other California transportation agencies for these recommendations. Susan is also working closely with Orange County's new congressional member, Mimi Walters, on federal issues related to the Tesoro extension and the 241 long-range planning strategy, highlighting the challenges inherent in the permitting process. As a result of her outreach, Congresswoman Walters is a co-sponsor of H.R. 2497, the NEPA Reciprocity Act, which I will elaborate on in my upcoming legislative staff report. In addition to what I've outlined above, Susan is working with the author of the National Monument Bill, Congressman Ed Royce, providing initial input on issues that will need to be addressed to protect TCA's ability to advance its mission. Following the annual federal legislative platform developed by staff and Aiken Gump, in fiscal year 16, they will, among other things, support transportation authorization efforts to streamline the TIFIA loan approval process, continue to work with local and regional transportation agencies to support maximum funding for federal highway and transit programs, support legislation and regulations that provide opportunities to expedite and improve the efficiency of the environmental review process for transportation projects, brief members of Congress and federal departments and agency officials on TCA projects and seek their input and consensus where appropriate, work with federal agencies to obtain the approvals necessary to advance TCA's capital projects and programs, and support the legislative and regulatory efforts of other Orange County and regional transportation entities that are consistent with the objectives of TCA's federal platform. Given the ever-changing nature of activities in DC, Aiken Gump works closely with TCA staff to identify issues and provide strategies, if needed, to protect and enhance TCA's mission to increase mobility in Orange County and the region. Staff recommends the board authorizes amendment number 4 to the contract with Aiken Gump, Strauss, Hauer, and Feld for an amount not to exceed $301,000. The monthly retainer for these services remains unchanged. Again, this contract was reviewed and approved by both the Foothill Eastern Mobility Ad Hoc and Joint Legislative Ad Hoc committees in the past 2 months. And that concludes my report, and I am happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Daly. Directors, any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion by Director Pring and a second by Director Bartlett. Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Can I make a comment on the motion?
Absolutely.
Okay, just real quick. I just want to thank Barbie for listening to the board members, especially I think it was here at Foothill, to take back some of the information we'd worked on as a committee, but some of the members felt that it wasn't as detailed and as informative as they like. You immediately, called us in, created a really good layout of all the information and legislative proposals and platforms, and now a real good comprehensive review of this. So I really thank you for listening to us and taking charge and doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, back to all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Very good, carries unanimously. Comment, Barbie, that
Yes.
I will make. You've got a wonderful group of directors, in my opinion, who read everything that you put in front of us. I appreciate that you have such detailed reports. Don't feel that you need to duplicate everything that you've done in the report. As soon as we've read that, I love that you highlighted a couple, but feel free to skip through it, especially in light of
Absolutely.
being-
Okay. With that, just approve the legislative watch list and we'll be all finished with that one.
Which, for the record, is item number 17. All in favor, say, no, I'm sorry. Give us a short
Sure.
report would be.
Okay, short report. I'm presenting 2 items today, the state and federal legislative platforms and the watch list. I'll be asking for your approval of the platforms and making recommendations regarding 3 state bills and 1 federal bill. These items were discussed with the joint legislative ad hoc committees in March, May, and June, as well as the April board meetings, giving the board members opportunities to review, comment, and provide input. The platforms outline the areas of focus for the 2015 legislative cycle and provide staff and our consultants with policy direction as we advocate on behalf of the agencies. I know you understand what's in the state platform and the federal platform, so I won't go into that, but I will talk about the bills that we're recommending positions on. Included with the staff report is the list of bills that you have in front of you, and we've determined that 4 of those state bills are high priority for TCA, and we're recommending positions on 3 of them, as well as a position on 1 federal bill. On the state side, AB 194 authorizes the Department of Transportation in cooperation with the Regional Transportation Agency to apply to the California Transportation Commission to develop other toll facilities. We are recommending the boards approve an amendment to the bill to ensure there is no inadvertent negative impact on TCA's existing authorities. The full language of that amendment is included in your staff report. If approved by the boards, this amendment will be taken up in the Senate Transportation and Housing Committee. The next bill, AB 516, introduced by Assemblymember Kevin Mullen, requires the DMV to establish a temporary license plate program, similar to programs in over a dozen states. Under this law, vehicles sold in California would be issued a temporary plate at the point of sale. TCA lost approximately $4 million in toll revenue this past year, 71% of which was due to no license plates. And statewide, that loss was approximately $15 million. This bill is supported by public safety and law enforcement, and it sets up a new electronic report of sales system that would pay for an increase in the administrative fee for recording notices of unpaid toll evasions. The bill was passed by the Assembly last Thursday with only 1 dissenting vote, and temporary license plates is part of our state platform. Staff is recommending support and work with author on this particular bill. On AB 1265, it extends the sunset date for public-private partnerships. Currently, that law expires on December 31st, 2016, and this bill would extend the sunset date to January 1st, 2030. And staff is recommending a support in concept position. Finally, staff recommends a position on 1 federal bill, HR 2497. This bill was introduced on May 24th by California Congressman Jeff Denham, and is referred to as the NEPA Reciprocity Act. NEPA is the National Environmental Policy Act that projects have to comply with as part of the permitting process. This bill would allow the Secretary of Transportation to certify that a state's environmental review process is sufficient to satisfy the federal environmental review under NEPA, therefore reducing redundancy. HR 2497 is co-sponsored by a number of California members, including Congresswoman Mimi Walters, a member of the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee. Staff is recommending a support position, and if the board so approves, we will be submitting that support position to the committee. And that concludes my report, and I'm happy to take questions.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Daly. In the spirit of expediency, let me start with actually a motion that I'll make that will adopt all 3 of staff's recommendations that are detailed on the first page. So it's adopting the 2015 federal legislative platform, Number 2, the state platform, and then number 3, the state legislative watch list, as well as the state and federal recommendations. There was a motion. I heard a second from Director Crane. Comments from Director Bartlett?
With the same recommendation regarding if the bill starts to go sideways or there's important information that comes up on a real-time basis, if you could do an email blast for the board, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Very good. Question? Yes, Director Ferguson.
Yes, by doing all three at once, I can't really support the state platform.
Very good. And if that's the only one that you have, any other directors have comments? Yes, Director Ward?
Also, I would have trouble supporting number 3, only based on the fact that we're asking for the state parks to be on the watch list. In the last meeting, I did support it because it was said that if that came up, we wouldn't automatically be taking a stand against that. However, in the fact that this involves the 241 long-range planning, and we have not heard anything about where a alignment is, the city of San Clemente supports the extension of the state park adjacent to that extension of that contract in 2021. So I won't be able to support the state platform on it.
Let me do this then, just for clarity for the clerk's sake. Let's start with item number 1. So adopting the 2015 federal legislative platform. Do we have a second by Director Kring? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that one passes unanimously. Number 2, adopt the 2015 state legislative platform. Second by Director Kring. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
On the state legislative platform number 2? Okay, very good. We have oppositions from Director Ferguson and Director Ward. I'm glad you guys clarified that. I thought you were on number 3. The third is a motion to approve the 2015 state legislative watch list as well as the state and federal recommendations. Seconded by Director Kring. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, and opposed by Director Ward. Any abstentions? Nope, she was in favor of the number 3. You opposed number 2 on the motion, right? Okay, very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Barbie, for that. Appreciate it. Moving to item number 18, and this is the consulting and advocacy services. Still, Ms. Daly.
Okay, I'll also be brief on this one. The item before you today includes 5 contracts related to the 241 Long-Range Strategic Planning Strategy. This team is comprised of experts in the areas of transportation, regulatory permitting, environmental outreach, coalition building, and community outreach. These contracts were reviewed and approved by the Mobility Ad Hoc Committee at their meetings in March and May. I'm prepared to go through each of these contracts and give you a little rundown on each if you'd like, or I'd open it for discussion.
Let me check with the directors. Do you want additional detail beyond what's in the written report?
So I'll make a motion that we adopt new contracts. I'll
Okay,
second.
we have a motion by Director Shea and a second by Director Bartlett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
Opposed.
Oh, good, thank you. Director Ferguson opposes. All right, thank you. Appreciate it so much. And it's the efficiency of your good reports that allow us to burn through like that, Barbie. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbie.
Okay, we are now on item number 19, the annual review and compensation adjustment for our Chief Executive Officer. Directors, as you know, we do this on an annual basis, so it is that time of the year to review our CEO, Mr. Cramen. Let's begin. Oh, he's got a smirk on his face. We have to try to, consider that as we look at him. Sherry, do you have a brief report that you can start us off with?
Yeah, everyone has Mike Clayman's current contract in front of them at the dais, but just to give a brief summary, Mike's contract went into effect on October 9th. It is a 3-year contract, which will continue until October 8th of 2017. As indicated in number 4.4, salary adjustment and performance evaluation of the CEO shall be reviewed on an annual basis prior to September 1st of each year, effective as of the first pay period of July each year. CEO shall be eligible for a base salary increase to be determined at the sole discretion of the agency's boards. In addition, agency's boards may in their sole discretion determine to pay to CEO a non-base building merit bonus based on the evaluation of the CEO performance review. So I think Director Young or Chair Young is going to propose what is the recommendation of the executive committee.
And it would be my pleasure to do so. But before we go there, let's start with some comments if we can.
You know what, let me, before, what you will be looking at, Mike's current compensation is at $240,000 annually. So that will be what you will be looking at as far as a merit increase on top of that.
Very good, thank you so much. All right, directors, this would be the time for you to provide review. Thank you, Director Spitzer. Mr. Freeman.
So, I'm sorry, when we changed from interim to permanent, what, the salary hasn't changed, you're just looking at a merit?
A merit, this is, the item that before you is a merit increase based on an annual performance review on Mike's current compensation of $240,000 annually.
Mike's at 240 now.
Correct.
Okay, so this is a merit. This isn't, there's no delta there on top of that to change it.
Correct.
All right. Was there a salary study? Did the executive committee do a comparison with other CEOs at transportation?
There was.
Yes.
Were provided.
And are you going to share that with us?
We can share that. I don't have copies in front. I'll tell you that our CEO is lower than everyone else on this list.
Well, no, I just texted Daryl Johnson to remind me what we gave you. I mean, you do need to have some context, so
sure.
There's a basis, but I didn't, it's helpful to know there's no increase except the merit, so, right? You're not recommending anything above the merit.
Well, let me tell you what was recommended at the San Juan team. They were actually recommending two different increases. One is a base increase of 4%, which is in line with what was done with staff. And then the second would be a non-base building merit bonus of $15,000. So there are the two recommendations that were adopted.
What's 3 times 3, what is it? What's the actual hard number?
$9,000 additional for 4%.
Okay, so 9,000 would be base building.
9,600, correct.
All right, and then a one-time 15 non-base building.
Non-base building, one-time 15.
All right, so what's the total comp package?
Sherry, do you have the total comp package? The
It was
total
330, wasn't it?
No, no,
353.
Current comp package is 352.
350.
So if you add on
so you'd
the
add 9,600 on top of that, and then the one-time non-base building.
All right, so what's that number roughly?
352 plus 96 is 361.4.
Okay. So,
plus 15 one time. Correct.
You know, let's talk about I mean, let's appreciate one thing. This employment contract, this has nothing to do with Mike. This is a very different document than what it used to be, okay? And a lot of us were really invested in making some changes here. So I just want to understand the rationale, for example, on outside activities. We were very unhappy to learn about certain outside activities that were occurring in the past, and then we wanted some safeguard, and the safeguard delegates us only to the chairs. So why wouldn't the rest of the board want to have a say or at least some knowledge on outside activities? Why? I mean, look, your job, we're hiring you to do the job here, and that's with some latitude. If you want to be on the United Way board or whatever, I want to know that all the missions, goals, and objectives here are being achieved, right, before you do any outside. But I don't think that should just be the chair. I think that's a conversation you should have with your executive team, which, not your executive team, strike that, your directors who hire you and do your performance evaluation. So, help me, Mr. Chair, why is it just the chairs up? It'd be both boards. So it'd be two people would make a decision on what the CEO can do and where they can invest their time without any knowledge of the rest of the board. That's a huge responsibility on your shoulders, by the way. One that I wouldn't necessarily want to bear. Because if you end up being wrong, you're going to get the wrath of your board on you. It's on page 2, section 3.
Thank you, Doug.
So I just help me understand what the thinking was, so maybe it's logical.
Well, and as you said, this was an agreement that was negotiated before, so this is not a new agreement.
No, I don't think, Neil, we had that was the problem. I don't think we said you could engage, but we didn't have any oversight of it.
Sure. But this is actually the agreement that was entered in 2014, so we're not proposing, what you have in front of you is not a change to the agreement. This is the agreement that is currently in place.
Who cares?
Okay, I just want to make sure
review it. I mean,
absolutely, I just want to make sure you understood this.
Well, maybe I don't know. If I didn't make the argument before, shame on me.
Oh, no, I don't see it as a shame on you. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, so.
I'm just saying, do you want that burden of having to approve outside activities, or do you think it should come to the board? My understanding today is is this a stutter step to July or something? Is this coming back again?
Yeah, the proposal last time is that it would come back at the next board meeting, but the effective date would still be July 1st. So it'd be a retroactive approval of whatever we approved in July. So it is a stutter step. You're absolutely right.
So, Mr. Joseph, I know you're not our employment lawyer anymore, but you are advising us in this context. So, isn't the whole contract, I mean, these provisions are fair game, aren't they?
Well, of course, anytime you discuss the terms and conditions of the contract, you can always, make amendments. Obviously, Mr. Freeman would have to accept those.
No, I totally get that. But I was getting this inference from you, Mr. Chair, that somehow we couldn't open this up. But that's not true, we can't. So, anyway, I have a problem with that. I'll just list my issues.
Sure.
But because you haven't responded about why you think that's a good idea. Did you want to?
No. I actually don't think it's a good idea. I don't have a problem being held to that standard, but I don't think it's a good idea if I was individually negotiating the contract. And like you said, we get to reopen it every year, even though it's a 3-year contract that's in place. To the extent that we are proposing bonuses, we can say, Mr. CEO, are you interested in a renegotiation in the middle of your 3-year contract? I don't know that the executive committee, especially given the history, is predisposed to do things without the board's full knowledge. So I think you're probably going to see it reply, but we wouldn't have to by the way the contract is drafted.
Right, okay, well.
You mentioned a couple other areas. What else do you have?
All right, so let's talk about reimbursement of expenses. We had major issues with that too. This is on your shoulders again, reimbursement of expenses. So this was very helpful when Director Bartlett was chair. She was reviewing a lot of the expenses that were going on, which was very, very helpful because we didn't know. And, if you're in the position of being it's probably the controller or whatever that position is here. It's I'm sorry, what is it? Whoever approves warrants and reimbursements. Is that you, Amy, or somebody in your shop?
It's either by me or my staff.
Yeah, it's very hard when you're a subordinate to the CEO to say no to that, right? I'm not going to reimburse you. Or if you raise questions, it puts you in a really awkward place. This is a reviewer, so you do need that safeguard. That one doesn't bother me so much because at least the chair is knowing where the expenditures are. That one's not as troublesome to me as outside activities, but I didn't know if anybody had heartburn on it. The last one I have is termination without cause. 180 days pay if that person isn't a good fit. That's not standard in the industry. In fact, it's contradicted by 6.5, which is termination by CEO. So if he comes to us and says, I want out of here, he's got to give us 90 days notice. But if we want him out of here, we got to pay 180. That is not a level playing field. Plus, County of Orange, 9 months for CEO. Executive employees who are at will, 90 days. I said 9 months, I meant 90 days, 3 months. I just think 180 is excessive, and I don't think it's consistent with, I don't know what your city managers are, but I'm guessing most of them are probably about 90 days. But I don't know off the top of my head. But full disclosure, to be fair, this came up at OCTA because I was on the negotiating team, and I voted against Daryl Johnson's contract on this because he does have 180 days, and I object to that. I think it's completely out of line. So I didn't support Johnson's contract for that reason, but I think 180 is excessive. Now, if you want to make him give us 90 days or 180, if he wants out of here and pay us 180 days salary, then we have a level playing field. I might think, okay, apples to apples. Those are my issues, Mr. Chair.
Okay, good. Director Barton?
I think with regard to the 180 days for termination, at the city council level, for instance in Data Point, we have there's 6 months in the contract. And it's the same reason, the same rationale that would apply here, where you get elected officials, they get elected to office. So, 1 year you might have a board that just loves you, and the next year we get a turnover of 3/4 of our board members here who don't like you and decide to throw you out. So it protects the CEO, and I think it's important to have that kind of clause in the contract because you're having to deal with elected officials, and it could change drastically literally from one election cycle to the next.
It's very problematic.
Okay, we've got Director Murphy, Director Crane, and the Director Ward.
Thank you. Whoops, sorry. Thank you. One, just to clarify for anybody that isn't sure, I know all of Director Spitzer's comments were about Mr. Craven's predecessor, not anything related to Mr. Craven's performance himself. So just in case there was any concern that way, I know I can speak on it. Yeah, exactly. So I wrestle a little bit with, especially with the expense and travel pieces of that, and in terms of what's inbounds and what's out of bounds from an oversight standpoint. My suggestion would be that simply put in the activity reports that are very concise and very regular in terms of that if there are plans moving forward for trips in terms of business related type stuff, if those are communicated there, maybe that's the cross-reference that is the balance to ensure that the rest of the board is aware. If there's a trip to some far-off place that one of us wants to question the benefit of, or the attachment to the board, that maybe that's a way to deal with that. And I must confess, I do have a bit of concern over an inequity between the employee, in this case the CEO's ability to depart and notice, versus what we would give if that time arose where we were having that discussion. And something on a balance, whether it's 90, 180, or somewhere in between, I would be more comfortable with on that, even though I know that wasn't the core of the discussion today.
Okay, thank you. Director Crane.
Thank you. Mike, I just want to know if, what are you doing as far as outside? Are you on different, because I think that's the crux of the thing. Are you participating as a board member in some charity or multiple charities, or?
Nothing other than professional organizations, OCBC, things like that, things that the agency is engaged in. I don't have anything.
Okay.
I mean, I spend all my time here, to be honest.
Okay. Well, have you been approached by, I don't know, American Cancer or Susan Komen or somebody to be on the board?
No, I have not.
So you don't anticipate having any of those being done? So it seems like it's only a professional relationship at this time. So I think that probably should allay your fears about it. Certainly allays my fears. So I don't think. And what also on Vector, to Trustee Murphy's point, it's always in the consent calendar where the CEO or staff are traveling, so the board can approve or disapprove of that expenditure. So that might be something, if you know you're traveling to a certain area, that can be put in the.
I don't think that's the policy that we have here, but it is included in my weekly CEO report, all of my calendar, notable events in the calendar, including any travel.
Well, there seems to be a lot of protections around his compensation, so you just have to clear up the 90 and 100 meeting. I think it would be equitable.
Very good. Director Ward.
Actually, it was Director Shea.
Oh, Director Shea.
Oh, yeah, I do agree with, anyway, we did approve this at San Juan. I do agree that I would look at a 90 and 90 day. The point is, and I agree with also with what Director Bartlett's saying, but if we have a new board come on and they don't like somebody, and God forbid they're not going to like you, but if they do, I wouldn't want to stay around for 180 days when people don't like me. I just say, hey, this isn't working. I need to move on, and 90 days is plenty of time. So I think to make it consistent, I don't think it's a major change in the contract. I think we should make it consistent, have 90 days, 90 days. That'd be the only suggestion I would make.
And to clarify, I don't think it's requiring the CEO to stay around. It's in the event of a without cause termination that he's entitled to a lump sum payment.
Mm-hmm. No, I realize that, but oh yeah. So it'd be. Oh, I'm sorry. So it's a lump sum of 180. We'd give you 90, especially if we don't like you. I think that's better. 90 days worth of compensation. Well, if someone doesn't like you, why would they want to give you 180 days worth of income? So I think going to 90 and 90 is a better suggestion.
Director Crane, yes.
Yeah, I think we're being schizophrenic. If the San Juan already approved it, then it has to come back. I understand that, but we'll have to go back to the San Juan. Somehow we're going to have to make this balance out because you work for both agencies.
Well, we just sent suggestions, but it was going to come back and to be fully, vetted in a contract. So we'll see it before and the board can ask questions about it. So we didn't just say, yes, we approve it the way it is.
Yeah, if I may, we've got a couple things going on here. Number one, this is the annual review of our CEO. So let's make sure we set that aside and we talk specifically about the annual review of the CEO. And connected, but separate from that, is the review of the contract itself. Is this the contract that we want to use? Now remember, we're in the middle of a 3-year contract.
Right.
This is a contract that we've already bound ourselves to. Could we reopen it? We could always renegotiate. That creates a requirement of both parties to agree to the negotiation.
Is that true, Mr. Joseph? Because we're changing the contract amount.
As we discussed a moment ago, Mr. Kramer would have to agree to those changes.
Yeah, but in order to get the money too, you might be wrong.
I know, there you go.
Yeah.
It's called negotiation strength. That's exactly true. So the question is, what is the pleasure of the board? Do we want to focus on first the review of Mr. Kramer, or first the review of the contract? Do we want to combine them? So first things first. All right, well, tell me, Director Kramer, in your mind, which is the first things first?
Well, I think the performance of the CEO, and I'll just jump in on that. I've only been back since January, so I wasn't here when you were in for a great many months. I just want to say you have been a pleasure to work with. You're very accommodating when people ask you questions, or people, or one of the trustees, the directors ask you to do something, you step right up and you make the changes. I just think the staff seems to be remarkably happy, and the morale here, I think, is great considering what we went through a couple of years ago. So I think you've done a great turnaround, and personally, I think you're just the right person for the right job at the right time.
All right, so continuing with the review of the CEO, let's go down that vein for a minute. Mr. Spitzer.
Yeah, we had a closed session on this, and we obviously have to talk about salary in public, but no, listen, I want to say some very positive things. I've been here through a lot of CEOs, going back all the way to Walter Kreutzen and Bill Woollett, okay, so I've been around forever on these things. This agency is a very difficult agency to manage, in the sense that we've got a lot of controversial issues here. We're also marketing something that we were on the front edge, years ago, and we were leading in the nation when toll roads were largely an experiment outside of the East Coast model. So since Mike's been, Mike, I think you're doing a phenomenal job. I think you push back. You're not afraid to push back directors, which is very helpful. No one wants to push over CEO that just says yes, yes, yes. I appreciate the fact you're accommodating, but if you disagree with us and you're respectful about it, I have no problem having those arguments. I think it's important to have that kind of robust public kind of conversation and be transparent. We have some board issues here. We have some board members who are representing their jurisdictions, and they don't support certain initiatives of the toll road, but we should always be respectful of that. We should honor that, and we should encourage the fact that even though it may be uncomfortable at times, that hey, everybody has a right to be heard, and everybody has a right to voice their point of view. That's why they were elected. So, and it's really important for the CEO to set that stage and never diminish the voice of either a majority member or on a particular issue, a minority member. And believe me, I went through El Toro. I've been a minority member on the Board of Supervisors for years. It doesn't feel good when the CEO, not this case, but when I was at the county, was derogatory, demeaning, and belittling. But I got rid of her. So now it took me a long time, but I finally did it. So, but my point is, Mike, I think you're doing a really good job. You're staying the course. I think you're doing the best you can to take care of your employees. You've had some phenomenal new hires, okay? And it's not fair to point any out over any others, because some have been here a long time. Barbara, you got accolades today. Lisa, you're doing a great job. Samuel is a great hire, okay? He's been here 90 days, but why are you laughing?
He was like Swiss cheese earlier, yeah.
No, but the point is that looking at your org chart, you did a whole reorg. Samuel immediately grabbed all of the boxes on the org chart, took them all away from Valerie. The confidence that Amy has instilled in Wall Street, the investors group, the rating, this is about your team. You can't do it all yourself. And I think you've been making some really good decisions. So I'm real big on that. I don't like the 180. I mean, if the 180 stays, I'm a no. And so I think it's important to say, I completely support you, want to give you everything else, but I have that problem area of 180. I'd ask for 90 to be consistent. And then 2, I'd ask for the whole board to have to approve outside employment. I just think, man, let us all know if he wants to engage. If, as Director Crane said, it's not an issue, that amendment shouldn't be a big deal. But I do not want to get caught off guard finding out maybe in a, sometime he decides to get his, fancy tickle on some issue and somebody asks him to participate. And the chair says, yeah, that sounds reasonable. And then we find out 40% of the time he's not here. We should know that, we should talk about it, and we should have him explain that to us as a group. So I don't think, if it's not a big deal, then the amendment shouldn't be a big deal. All right, that's all I have, Mr.
Okay, thank you, Director Spitzer. Let me do this. I see that there are basically 2 potential motions, so I'm going to summarize what I think I hear. I'll make the one, and we can vote and look at the other if the first one doesn't pass. So the first motion would be what was passed at San Joaquin, and that would be the review, which will be the confidential review that we will release to you on the actual evaluation form. But as far as the salary increase, it was a proposed increase of 4% to the base building, $9,600, and a non-base building merit bonus of $15,000, and that the amendment to the contract would come back to this board in July, although effective July 1st. And so that's one motion. Let me describe the second motion, which and Director Spitzer, correct me if I'm not articulating it correctly. The second motion would be approval of those financial increases, but subject to 3 things. Number 1 would be on the agreement, paragraph number 3, the scope of duties, that the review would come back to the full board as opposed to just the chairpersons. Number 2, and Todd, you took out the reimbursement of expenses, but I'm going to put it back in unless you don't want it there. You had mentioned
I thought Director Murphy's solution was fine. I had no problem. As long as it's out there somewhere and people can that, and Director Crane, I can.
All right, very good. So we'll take out 4.3 and leave that as it is. So the second one was on paragraph 6.4, termination by agency without cause, changing that to a 3-month period as opposed to the 6-month period that is there. So the 2 motions would be, one would be the approval, subject to review in July, of the dollar amounts as proposed. The second would be approval of the dollar amounts, but only subject to the changes in the agreement. I'll make the motion that'll parallel what happened at San Joaquin, and that's the first motion of approval of the dollar amounts without the condition as Director Spitzer was suggesting.
All right. Yeah.
All right, so we have a second by Director Crane. Any questions, comments to understand the 2? All right, all in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
No.
All right, we need to do a count on that. So let's do it by show of hands. All aye, please. Make it easy to see. And
We just do the nose, it's easy.
okay, all opposed. Please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I count 6 no's, and the balance would be ayes.
Michael, you need the threshold to pass with this form.
No, there's not. Yes, so that didn't.
It's
the
a
first
majority
didn't
of
pass,
those
right?
present.
Okay.
I didn't get all of the no's. I have Spitzerfield, Ward, Murphy.
Ferguson. Shea.
Okay. We're looking at Kathleen. How many do we have here, and what's our majority count?
That was 6, and then there's 12 of you here.
Of course there is.
Was 6 to 6?
Good.
Well, it still fails.
Yeah, so it still fails. All right, so now we'll go to the motion number 2, and I'll go ahead and make the motion just so it's on the record. That would be the dollar amounts subject to. The subject to would be, as we articulated before, paragraph 3 is approval by all board members as opposed to just the chairpersons, and paragraph 6.4 would be a 3-month payment as opposed to the 6-month payment. So all in favor say aye.
Oh, I'll second it. I second it really fast.
Thank you, Director.
That's okay, do it in.
Very good. All right, we'll go back to the ayes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
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 All right, so Director Rapp is a no, and Director Bartlett's a no. I'm going with an aye on this one as well, so it looks like we have those 2 no's. That carries it. Now, understand, this has to go to San Joaquin. Mr. Joseph, maybe you can weigh in. Well, it's going to come back again anyway, because we had to come back with the proposed amendments. What would be a good way to communicate to that board, though, of how this board took a little bit of a turn compared to what they did. Can we send an email?
Just send them an app with a skunk on it.
I would suggest that the chairs communicate regarding what occurred at this board meeting. And since the previous approval was subject to coming back to the board with an actual contract amendment, then the San Joaquin board could consider the amendment in the form approved by Foothill at that time.
Very good. And what I would propose, directors, weigh in please, I would propose that the amendment, because we haven't had a chance to discuss with San Joaquin, that it comes back as they have suggested, as well as we have just voted on, so come next board meeting, they'll have the either or, the A and B to be able to choose. Director Spitzer.
I don't know the schedules off the top, but this is kind of weird today. This was a big separation of time, right? I would just, since there is this little bit of a hiccup, I think it's important to communicate it. I would just ask that maybe we could, if we could have a time certain where there might be the arrival, that we could just, on the one issue of CEO, we could meet as a joint board.
Good point.
So that we could talk this through, and then we could see, because obviously you can't operate with two different, you have to have a single contract. But I think the conversation should be amongst a joint board. So can we just meet on that one item and then make sure the timing doesn't waste anybody's time, so figure out what that half-hour overlap.
So at the crossover, I think that's a great idea. And of course, as we move towards trying with our new IT that we plan for this next year, that'll be a more routine basis. So good idea.
He wants to wait until it's contract raised until the software.
I'm going to mind read. I'm going to guess not. So very good. Okay, directors, thank you for that. Moving through the rest of our agenda, we'll go to the Chief Executive Officer's report. Mr. Kramer.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Well, so much fun, we get to do it twice. All right. Okay. Executive Officer's report. So for the Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency, I'm happy to report that transactions are up 3.9% in May and revenues were up 5.8%. So another great month for the roads. I'd also just like to take the time to thank the directors for all of the work and to thank staff and Amy in particular, because we worked really hard on the budget and you all worked hard. We had lots of meetings, lots of ad hocs, workshops and all of that. So a lot of work went into that, and I think we have a great budget that was approved today, and we have a great outlook for the year that's coming up, and a lot of important things ahead for this agency. So we're just gonna keep on working. Every meeting we get, we polish the procedures a little better and understand a little more, maybe everything that everybody's looking for. Is interesting, the item we just got done with, this is really the first time this agency's had this item come to the board, and it's something we have to do every year. So like everything else we do, we're gonna get better with each time, but it doesn't mean we're not gonna stumble and struggle a little bit each time. But as long as we keep that upward spiral going, we're in the right direction. And thank you very much for the comments, directors, on the staff, because I couldn't do this job without a great staff, and we have a really great staff. So, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Any questions of the CEO? Okay, moving to our final point, the director's report, and I show that we have 5 ad hoc committees. I'm going to start. Mr. Schofield had asked me to read his that he had prepared, which is the May 21st, 2015 Joint Environmental Ad Hoc Summary. They met, as I said, on May 21st. The staff recommended contracts that were included in the agenda for Regional Planning Services, Upper Chiquita, and Live Oak Habitat Management and Patrol Services. The various mitigation properties owned by TCA and staff's conceptual plan to transfer a portion of the properties. And third, the Communications Department proposal to initiate a regional dialogue on wildlife connectivity and a prioritization of tasks ordered for the newly approved environmental technical rider. That's the environmental ad hoc. I show Director Puckett that you have a couple of them, compensation as well as toll ops.
I do. Joint Toll Operations Director's Report. The Joint Toll Operations Ad Hoc Committee was held on June 10th. The committee received information on contracting items and future procurements that will be presented to the board for approval. These include procurement of an interim contractor to maintain the legacy toll system until a new one can be implemented, customer service center contract labor extension, printing and mail house services, image review services, CSC back office system. Staff updated us with the current schedule for signage research, including focus group and drive-along observation studies. The committee was also briefed on an upcoming toll operations workshop tentatively scheduled for August. All board members will be invited to attend to discuss various aspects of toll operation processes and policies. And the Joint Compensation Ad Hoc Committee meeting met on May 21st to review the medical plan coverage options that TCA offers, the splits in the cost between TCA and individual employees, and the number of employees who have elected to participate in each plan option. Staff presented the results of a preliminary analysis of employer and employee costs as compared to other member agencies that indicated the TCA costs appear to be in line with its peers. The committee discussed possible effects of the Affordable Care Act on future health benefit costs and instructed staff to develop various benefit options, including flat rate options, to be reviewed in September after the agency receives the 2016 plan rates.
Very good. Thank you, Director Puckett. Director Bartlett, I think you have the joint ledge.
I do.
Thank you.
The Joint Legislative Ad Hoc Committee met a week ago Wednesday. Staff incorporated changes to the legislative platforms based on the conversation and suggestions at the April board meetings. The revised platforms were given to the committee in advance of the meeting to ensure all questions and concerns were addressed. The committee supported the changes that were presented to the board today. The legislative watch list was presented to the boards in April, and direction was given to take it back to the committee for further review. As such, staff and Bob Naylor, our advocate in Sacramento, reviewed the watch list with the committee and recommended positions on 3 state bills and 1 federal bill. The committee supported these positions and were also presented to the board today. And then I have one director comment.
Yeah, okay, first I think we have Director Shea for the marketing.
Yes, thank you, and I'll try to abbreviate this. A joint marketing ad hoc committee meeting was held May 20th. The ad hoc committee discussed the components of the budget, the percent of the budget allocated to the management fee as well. The committee agreed to $1.5 million budget for next year's marketing and advertising contract with ELA Advertising and directed staff to negotiate with ELA and the breakdown of the budget, with the majority of the additional funds going toward media buys, and that management fee should be, and it was reduced, I can't remember what the percentage, to a 15% of the budget. And we approved that today in our budget.
Okay, very good. Now the time for directors to have comments, and Director Bartlett has.
Okay, well, I'm honored to serve on the California Transportation Commission Technical Advisory Committee for the Roadway Usage Charge. And what that is, pursuant to state legislation 1077, the governor has mandated that this committee come up with a pilot program for the state of California, thereby changing your gasoline taxes that you currently pay to the state, changing that over to a vehicle miles traveled type of arrangement. So one would swap out for the other down the road, so to speak. We've met several times now. We're coming up with a matrix for the different types of options for data collection, taking into account privacy for the users on the road and the types of users, demographics, and we're working on collecting data now for the focus groups. And then after we have the focus groups, we'll be formulating a plan for rolling out this pilot program. So we're very excited about it. There's a lot of nuances, because when you think about it, you think, well, we'll just put something technology-based in the cars, have them calculate the mileage, and it'll be really easy. It's not that simple. There are some areas of the state that do not have internet connectivity. We need to have both manual systems. Not everybody has an iPhone, so we can't have everything technology-based. So we're looking at a lot of different options. Like I said, coming up with a matrix with all the different types of users, socioeconomic groups, types of devices, manual methods, technology-based methods, and I'll report back to you on a monthly basis with our progress. We meet in a different part of the state every month, so our next meeting is in Sacramento, and I'll report back to you with our findings after the next meeting. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Directors, any other comments or questions? I have one, and Mr. George, I might need your help on this. These ad hoc reports that we read, I know our ad hoc committees, we have to have a majority -1 so that we are in compliance with the Brown Act. But these reports that we read essentially serve as a futures agenda for us, because these are issues that are being dealt with the previous month that we know will likely come up to the full board the following month. Would there be a problem with us publishing these reports in our agenda packets that come out before the board meeting, or do we have to wait till after the board meeting happens?
I see no problem publishing them beforehand.
Well, I think it might be helpful to the rest of the directors, since we only hear these at the very end of a sometimes long meeting. Mr. Craven, I'm seeing a few nods around the table. Would you mind having staff include those prepared remarks in our folders, just so that we can study them more diligently and be able to ask questions over the course of the next month?
Sure. The exception would be those that occur after the board packages go out. But
Well, and Mr. Chairman, you bring up a good point, because I was going to say, when I'm reading my report for the marketing, we've already approved the budget, we've already gone over everything we've done. It's almost like an afterthought, and it seems like if we're going to at least do it, either it should be in a packet for us to review and then we don't have to do individual reports, or we should do it before we start getting into the discussion. Just a thought.
Yeah, that is a good thought. Any comments, directors? Director Beal.
Well, it seems to me that in our staff reports for the agenda item, they usually summarize what subcommittees have already reviewed it and what the recommendations were, so it would seem redundant.
So one of the things we might consider is we put the agenda together, we could have the committee reports come right before the item, and we've done that on a couple of occasions, but maybe we'll get, in this, we go through the committee restructure process where we're kind of changing the number of committees. I think that'll line up a little better as well, and then we can have those reports sort of with the item as opposed to after the item.
Yeah, Tony makes a good point though. Is there a redundancy based on, you're saying, the CEO's report that he sends out weekly, or which report are you referring to?
The staff report for an agenda item, like the marketing contract today, it summarized, I believe, the times that the marketing committee met, what the marketing committee's recommendations were. So I don't know that it helps to have a separate report.
But I don't know that it talks about what work the ad hoc committee did during that month. It only deals with what we're discussing this current month. But if we listen to the reports, what they talk about sometimes is going to talk about, or is going to advance what we're going to be discussing as for the following month.
In that situation, that would be different.
So I'm all for eliminating redundancies, but to the extent there's not a redundancy, I'd love to know that and be able to read it and say, hey, there's an area that I would love to tease out and ask staff for additional detail. Director Ward and Director Murphy.
I don't think it's harmful to hear something twice, especially when it's a little bit more. Like you said, it might make you look into it a little bit more. Just hearing it twice, I think, with a little more detail, I think would be good.
Okay.
It's beneficial.
I actually was going to take the flip side, and that is I like the original suggestion, so it's up front. It doesn't require the redundancy in the reading and the attention span type situation that, as you referenced in long meetings, if something might be lost that you might pick up in a read. So I'd rather have it on the read side.
Okay. Take that input, we'll work on it, and we'll come up with something. If it doesn't work, we'll tweak it in the future. All right, any other comments, questions? Directors, thank you for your participation, and we will adjourn to the next regularly scheduled meeting, which is July 9th at 10:30 a.m. We are adjourned.